Hello everyone. Today I am here with Marsha Wilson from ScaleSec. Marsha is one of the first people joining Vixul. And Marsha, why don't you introduce yourself to the listeners?
Certainly. Thank you. I appreciate that, Ali. My name is Marsha Wilson. Like you said, I'm the CEO and co-founder of ScaleSec. We are a boutique cloud consultancy.
Thank you, Marsha. And talk to us more about it. What is it that ScaleSec does?
Certainly, we bring the 4 key disciplines of code, compliance, security, and cloud to address our clients' biggest IT challenges through automation.
Tell me more about that. Is the focus more on the automation side, the security side, or is it just bringing them all together?
It has to be bringing them all together. You can't do any one of those things without influencing and affecting the other 4. It's what makes us a unique company and what gives us our superpower, because each of our consultants is equally adept in code and compliance and security and cloud. And those things are unique enough that it keeps us afloat.
Okay, thank you. That's actually a very important the distinction that you're making. I've always envisioned ScaleSec as a security company, and well, you have the lock as your logo too. So
right. Well, that actually leads to why we ended up starting our company, because my husband Aaron and I, he's my co-founder. We work really well together. And we've always worked in professional services, both of us. And when Aaron left AWS ProServe back in 2015, he recognized the need for a cloud security focused business that could help companies move onto the cloud securely. So that was the genesis of the company. We started ScaleSec to service those clients. And many of our first clients were first and second wave adopters who established cloud environments now, and they're already set. So now, and the reason that we are focusing on all 4 of those items rather than simply security is that we are now helping clients that either have cloud sprawl or that maybe need improvements in their brownfield environment so they can become a more technologically superior company.
Okay. And the other thing that it was actually making me think about is how security as a topic is so expansive. It touches so many parts of everything we do in all ways. And so from that perspective, while you're even with if you have that goal of security, you cannot actually ignore the other aspects of it.
When you are doing things in a secure manner, when you're engineering with security in mind, in addition to the functionality that you're trying to produce, you're going to naturally have a more secure environment, and you're going to have an environment that, if you're focusing on the requirements necessary to meet the compliance frameworks, you're going to have a secure and compliant environment. Both of those things work to reduce the risks that any business goes under when they are, working toward their business differentiators and trying to go fast.
Awesome. And you mentioned a little bit about the starting of the company, that you and your husband were really interested in cloud security. So tell me more about that.
We've always worked in security. Aaron started running an MSSP for SAIC bunches of years ago. I've always worked in the security spaces since my time in the military. So it was a natural progression to go from information security to cybersecurity to cloud security. We just kept following the sun, so to speak, as the future presented itself.
Got it. And I think that's and you mentioned. And the both of you were coming from a security background as from the consulting world, but you made the decision to take more of a entrepreneurial route to that.
We did. We wanted to leverage our years of experience in service and security to help companies get their arms around their security programs and get security integrated into the platform engineering and application build process. To do that, we knew we needed as much freedom as possible. So it also meant taking a risk and starting our own company.
Interesting. And what you just said was that the biggest, correct me if I'm wrong, but you just said that the biggest motivation for you to start ScaleSec is so you can serve the customers the way they need to be served.
Yes. We didn't want someone else to tell us that we also had to sell this and also had to sell that. Security often does not sell itself individually, but it is such an unblocker for other things going on in the company. The CISO has their point of view about things need to be secure because that's their responsibility. And sometimes that can go in in opposition to the go fast, build the platform, deliver the functionality that the customers are demanding.
Okay. And I'm curious. If I'm hearing you correct, you wanted that customer focus, the focus on, hey, the customer wants to need that. I don't want to be pushing something onto the customer that the customer doesn't need. And
They may need it, but I don't. It was not originally part of what our focus was going to be, because obviously, when you start a company, you can't start super broad. You have to start with what you think you can get some wind under your wings and get going. And it was
got
cloud
it,
security that we recognized was not being addressed in the market back in 2015, 16.
got it. And I think that's actually a really important thing to point out in terms of how do you actually get your foot into the door
Mhm.
by kind of like finding gaps in the market. So how was that reception when you first started out of cloud security specifically?
Well, when we started out the initial years of the company, we were sort of doing friends and family, just like reaching out to people that we knew, and everybody said, "I don't have a security specialist capable of supporting, the work that's going on." And so it started out onesie twosie that we would just plant, and it's actually still our philosophy today. We plant one security person with a bunch of developers, and we are the ones that influence the architecture to make it more secure.
Got it. And started out as from reaching out from your personal network, a network that was well established from your career as consultants,
Mhm.
and then taking that from there into uh, taking it, yeah, slow, not trying to be the hard push, and understanding the importance of working with the customer. And you made it like the security person, their goal was not to be to cast attention to themselves. Their goal was to make sure that the development teams were succeeding.
Right, right. They were just a quick double check. They could do the coding necessary to integrate the security requirements into that build process, and you couldn't do anything wrong. But basically, between 2015 and 2020, work just was raining down.
Awesome, and that I'm guessing is correlated with the growth of the clouds in general. A lot of enterprises moving into the cloud.
Exactly.
Got it. Actually, there's something that I want to dive deeper into over there. The answer that you said, um, there's well, IT in general, but security in particular, you get that bad reputation for like the problem with it is it's hard to show that you are important until you fail, and then you're very important,
Mhm.
and people only come the only time you're actually interacting, people are paying attention to is when you're uh, when when something goes wrong.
Mhm.
Uh, the What you talked about in terms of building security into the design, uh, it seems like your team was very active in addressing that
Mhm.
challenge, and yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Originally, again, back maybe 5, 7 years ago, you did not have a lot of folks in the CISO tower working for the security teams that knew how to code. They were more responsible for maintaining infrastructure, and that was sort of the old way of thinking. It's not the case nowadays. You have a lot more people that are capable of doing the coding necessary to integrate much more completely into those platform engineering teams. So way back when, I did see a disconnect between the way that the CISOs were, throwing out their requirements and expecting the developers to know a priori how to put them into the pipeline. Whereas now you're getting a lot more synergies between security and IT, because everyone recognizes that it's simply a matter of doing business. You cannot behave in a manner that disregards security and just go driving around without car insurance. It's not a safe way to behave, and eventually you're going to get caught up for it. So I would say that the connectivity between the information security tower and the IT tower is much more integrated nowadays than it was when we started the company.
Got it. And I think over the time, terms like DevSecOps have become
Mhm.
popular.
Mhm.
On a personal level, what does it feel like to be? You're not the obviously you can't take the whole credit for it, but ScaleSec actually does get a credit for creating that culture of, hey, this is the new way of doing security?
We do. I think there's a lot of other teams that also bring that level of focus to DevSecOps. And honestly, I've always believed that the information security, the cloud security community is so small and so tight that I don't need to basically say we're better than them or we're better than them. There are times that one of us might have a single person on the team that can accomplish something that is amazing, but we cannot get along without more cloud security experts. There's always not going to be enough of them. So when we started the company, we saw that need, and now we're just integrating with the clients and working colo with the clients to make sure that security is getting integrated.
Awesome. Thank you. And so, what were some of the biggest challenges you faced in the early days of starting ScaleSec?
Sure. Well, as any startup leader can tell you, when you are small and you're new, you're doing everything. You're networking, your sales, your delivery, invoicing, and then all the requirements levied on you to just be a business. And we learned as we went, and we became more capable as we added contracts and team members to the company. But running a business and doing the business is so different than what your business actually does. And I think that was kind of the biggest challenge that I had to adjust to as one of the folks, me and Aaron, really running a company versus being the delivery people in addition.
Awesome. And actually, so you mentioned a little bit of your background in terms of the uh, in terms of being both of you being involved in security in the past. How much were you involved in the security side? From your answer, I'm guessing not too much. Not the security side, the business side.
I was at the beginning, we were as much, when there were 3 or 4 of us, we were as much about delivery as we were about catching contracts and all the other bits. I don't think that the rubber really hit the road till 2018, 2019. The initial years of the company were not the middle years, which are not the current and future years.
Got it. So you just talked about different stages of the company: the current, the middle, the future.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me more about those stages.
Sure. So like at the beginning, you're trying to figure out if it's even going to work. And so for the first years of the company, we were just reaching out to people, building business by relationships. We knew enough people in the cloud security industry that we could maintain a pipeline for the employees that we had. At that time, we didn't set any sales goals, more like we just wanted to do good work and assumed that was going to be enough. We built upon our partnership with AWS first, and then grew to support Google Cloud clients as well. And frankly, up until COVID hit, we basically had more than enough leads and work to keep us all, happily employed.
Got it. And that was the early years, and it kind of it gave you a lot of confidence in the future of this company.
Right.
Did you mention COVID hit?
Yeah, we were recognizing that, COVID worked initially in our favor. We were always going to be a remote company. That's how we built it. That's what we wanted to do. And we were fully prepared to continue all of our contracts without disruption when everyone and their mom was sent home from all our client spaces. Excuse me. Our clients knew that at least our contracts would continue to execute on critical projects while they all figured out how to provision everyone else to work from home. But when 2021 came around, the uncertainty in general and the specific industries that were really decimated by the requirement to socially distance, that had a ripple effect that obviously all of us felt. And so now, 2021, it was a struggle to get contracts approved because no one knew when stuff was going to get back to normal. In our favor was the increased reliance on technology and in many cases, increased cloud consumption to allow us to emphasize the need for strong security measures to continue business remotely. But it was definitely a challenge. I'd say in early 2022, employees could name their salary. It was burning crazy hot and it made it very hard to hire. And this is still kind of in that same, 1/3. Especially as a small business, it was hard to hire. The cracks in this started to appear in Q3 and 4 of 22 when businesses started to lay off employees, first at a trickle. And then by the end of the year, it was in droves. So post-COVID malaise was affecting everyone, even through 2023, the great resignation, the quiet quitting due to burnout, and then job security jeopardy in general, the chaos of getting contracts signed, the longer processes, a lot more scrutiny about deliverables, output, justification of consulting in general. So
if I'm understanding you correctly, what you're saying is that you had uh, things were going well until around the COVID time, and then the COVID time was just this roller coaster wave. It was like you're looking at a static in a loudspeaker kind of sound
Exactly.
thing.
Exactly.
I can't call it a sine wave or a roller coaster anymore, but
No.
just the rapidity of it.
Yes.
And we all lived through that, and
Yes,
we
we
all
did. All the small businesses. Yeah. And the big ones.
yeah, and I mean, from our perspective, we Adar and I had just gotten off our exit, and uh, the first conversation we had about it was, well, thank God we had an exit. Like,
Yeah, you
thank-
wouldn't know. I mean, who would have predicted any of that? That sort of, that sort of thing coming around is a once in a lifetime event, really, that level of severity.
yeah, and that was like a really tough time, and kind of like just seeing so much unpredictability, so much chaos happening. It seems like you wanted, okay, I need to be a lot more systematic about my business, and want to develop a lot more resiliency. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, and frankly, the story of Vixul and the initiation of the Vixul cohort programs really did demand that we sit down and truly step back and think about, what do we want to do with this? I mean, we could keep just doing this, and it's like pedaling your bike just in circles, wondering, are you ever going to get off your bike one day? It really forced Aaron and I to decide what it is we wanted to do with our company, it was the beginning of the third iteration of, what makes the most sense for our company.
And so, in that sense, the listeners will not know, Marsha joined ScaleSec in mid 2022,
I
and
think it was near the
so
end. It was the first cohort.
oh, yeah, it was a first cohort. I think the conversation started around mid,
Yes.
and well, before that, Arthur and I were still at jobs, and Vixul
Hmm.
didn't. So,
Yes.
so from that perspective, the timing was just right,
Hmm.
right for everyone.
I'm glad you had an exit. So you can help.
We're very glad that we had an exit. Probably more glad than you are, but. And then you went to Vixel, and you mentioned a little bit of the things in terms of what you got from Vixel, kind of a mindset shift in terms of how to look at the business, right?
Yes, yes. I think at the time we realized we had a company that could actually have legs. It wasn't going to fizzle out after like 3 or 4 years. So we were looking to make our business practices more repeatable, which you guys helped us emphasize. We were able to leverage your subject matter experts through Vixel, and they brought thought leadership and shared things that have worked for them and have not worked for them as they led their services companies that helped us navigate our priorities while continuing to keep our business going.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for that. And can you so tell me more about the new post Pixel, post COVID skill set?
Sure, sure. So I'd say happily in 2024, um, it's stabilized. And as a result of all the tech layoffs, companies are starting to turn to consultants to compete uh, for the important and business critical projects that still need to be done. So I would say right now we are realizing the positive impacts of some of the major decisions we made, both around tooling and personnel in late 2023. You might have seen we revamped our website, we upgraded our forecasting, financial, and project management tools. We tightened up some of the contracting processes that allowed us to leverage our current staff more effectively and not hire as quickly as we had to be. And
Mhm.
that allowed us more stability both for our clients and for our employees. We're adhering more strictly to a budget and planning that we set up this January, and we've implemented more stringent KPIs to measure our successes. Thank you, Otter, for yelling at me about that. It's not perfect, but it is definitely get us get us going the right direction with the right velocity. And we don't want to be a rocket ship, but we want to be constant and modest growth that's sustainable.
You shouldn't make it perfect because it takes work. Takes like continuous amount of work, and there's no such thing as perfect. It's just right for you. And I think the way you're describing it, the way you're talking about the challenges that you're dealing with, I think you're actually describing it really well in terms of uh, understanding what challenges are facing your organization and
I
how.
think I think on any given day, it may be perfect for this hour, but because everything else is changing around you, perfect moves. And
Yeah,
so it can be pretty close to what you want, but you may as well that's like, just enjoy it for the second or three that you've got that I figured it out. And then something moved, I mean, that's how life is too. So that's
yeah.
why you can't say, I mean, you still have to have goals and stuff like that. But once you reach that goal, you need to reestablish what the next goals are going to be. It's never ending. I mean, it's never ending in a good way, but it's also never ending in kind of a exhausting way too, because that's the only way that you can make a business. You have to constantly be reinventing it.
Yes, yes, and I think one of the things with a fast-growing business like yours, the reinvention scale is so much faster, and the you just have to run so much faster to keep in place. But it's well to maintain the current trajectory, which isn't exactly keeping it in place, but it's a it's both. I always in my journey found it both nerve wracking, but also extremely fulfilling.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's like a business battlefield. The landscape changes, the people are moving around, you're trying to get somewhere, they're trying to get somewhere. I mean, it definitely harkens back to my military time. And I think about, how the battlefield is constantly changing. You're constantly getting new intel, constantly deciding what is the next move you need to make to, accomplish the goals.
Yes, and I think there's I like you giving a military analogies, especially because I was reading it. The word strategy, the origins of it really are coming from the
Mhm.
military side, because that is the highest stake, most unstable, quickly changing environments that
Certainly.
existed for a long time before modern business.
Yes. Yes. Now it's the business barons as opposed to the military commanders.
Significantly more vicious, with a lot less bloodshed.
Yeah.
The so and We talked about kind of what the different things that you've implemented, the different things that you've needed to implement. What's your process? Tell me more about. And we talked about how the bar is always moving. So tell me about this moving bar. Like, how do you know what it is that the next incarnation, that you need out of scales, like the next level of maturity? How do you figure that out?
Um, right now, we're basing it, frankly, we're basing it on sales. If sales is working, then the stuff that we have in place is validated. When we're having trouble with sales, you scratch at it, you sit and talk to your leadership, you try and figure out what are other people doing. That's where you go back and leverage, my SME network from Vixul, see what
Mhm.
they're seeing. We all share the same ideas because all of our partnerships, those folks are trying to sell their products and services. We're trying to sell our products and services. And we collaborate a lot, just like what's working for you. Is it webinars? Is it, what is your go to market for this year? How has that changed since last year? So I think small businesses are pretty good about saying, what are you doing to be successful? And what did you do to be successful? And that's really it's constantly, constantly evolving.
Interesting, interesting. Yeah, and sales definitely. I think that's exactly the right way
Mhm.
about it, and that sales uh, is the metric on which your company is ultimately going to be measured. Can you make it a little bit more concrete by going into a more specific example, so we can kind of see your thought process a bit more, or is that too difficult a thing to ask on the fly?
I would say honestly, I keep my stuff at the 10,000 foot level. I have other folks on the team that are delegated to do the more deep dive, the more detailed KPIs. And then I'm the one that says, oh, I'm the captain of the ship. I'm up here at the bridge. I'm not paying attention as much to the engine room. As long as the engine room's running and I don't see smoke coming out the sides, I don't pay as much attention to it at the daily. So really, to answer your question, the things that I know are the highest level KPIs. Doing them down deeper would require friends from my team to be on the call.
Got it, got it. And but I mean that answer is in itself very useful in the sense that have a team that you can trust and rely on them.
Yes. Yes. I mean, it sounds dumb, trust but verify, because honestly, even if I go to verify it, the likelihood of me finding something where someone's done something, cattywampus to what our goals are, because all of us are wanting our boat to not sink. All of us are wanting our, to have the velocity we do. We don't have anybody on the team that isn't fully invested on our global and group success. So there's personnel, process, and technology synergies that are necessary to make that happen. And everybody, I believe that on our team, everybody has the same goal in mind. I feel that from the loyalty and the hard work that my team does.
So, and for coming from my own experience, the gratitude of the team was in many ways a lot more valuable than anything else
Mm-hmm.
in the entrepreneurial journey.
People vote with their feet. If they're going to stay and work with you, it's because they believe that what you're doing is the best chance for them to also fulfill their personal goals and their employment goals and their career goals. So, if people start voting with their feet, going in the other direction, then that's where you do some introspection and figure out what's not working.
Okay. And one last question about this stage of the new stage of the business. You told us a lot about the things that you have done. Anything? Can you share some information on the from what the outcomes that is achieved on the sales side?
We are definitely selling more this year for the first time than we have in all the previous years. In July, we sold as much this year as we did the entire previous year. So I would say that the decisions we made last summer are finally coming through to bear fruit. And we knew when we put them in place, changing the website, doing some changes to personnel, bringing some stuff in-house, those kinds of decisions were going to help us ensure that down the road that they were going to come to fruition, and it seems to be working that way. Again, you can only go with the data you have, and so you continue to tweak to see if it'll work.
And more importantly, congratulations.
Thank you very much. It's a bit of a relief to kind of see that what we thought was going to work is actually working. It's very grateful.
Thank you. And so as we come to the close of our conversation, as the people that are the experts in security and cloud security, you definitely taught us a lot about how the security landscape has changed over the time. What's next in that change, in that evolution of how security is approached?
My best guess, and this is a data point of one, is that IT security for businesses, whether they're on-prem or in the cloud, are going to have to continue to integrate into the development process for maximum impact. So I expect to see continued focus on DevSecOps being adopted by more and more businesses. We're not going to escape the risks of being the victims of ransomware or other attacks. So continuing to build out a structure and a plan to recover as quickly as possible is going to be paramount for businesses. I also look forward to seeing more of our federal, state, and local agencies adopt and utilize cloud resources as a function of reducing costs, improving repeatability, and reducing risks to their organization. I think this will also mean that we will see more robust regulations, a heavier reliance on CISA and NIST for guidance to protect our businesses, and many of which are considered critical infrastructure. Because right now, what isn't considered critical infrastructure? What can we not live with? It used to be like power and water, and now it's like, I think there's 16 of them right now that Homeland Security indicates are critical infrastructure, environments, and it's everything. So it's important to get on the get as much regulation in there as is necessary to keep those critical infrastructures online.
And I think we got a little bit of taste of critical infrastructure in the early days of COVID, when we had that uncertainty around where things would be going.
Exactly.
Thank you. And from a more personal side, how has being in founding an emerging tech services company, how has that changed you and grown you as a person?
I'm far more humble now. I have a much better understanding of why my previous leaders and bosses seem so distracted at times, because as a business owner and a CEO, I'm aware of everything that's impacting my ability to do business. So I, along with my leadership team, are in constant risk analysis mode, depending on what's going on. Again, people, processes, and the technology. Trades are being made every day, given new data, new circumstances, new opportunities. I really miss the days of just being responsible for delivery, but it's also great to be the one that gets to share my experiences with my team and my clients to make them stronger leaders and businesses and generally stronger members of our society.
And in terms of, you may miss that experience personally for yourself, but the other way of thinking about it is that you did actually create that experience for far more people to be able to do work on the stuff that they want.
It's a teacher mentality. Exactly.
And like you're living vicariously. So from that perspective, that must be fulfilling.
Yes.
And what advice would you be giving out to other founders that may be starting out?
It's funny because when I talk to people from Vixul, they're like, here's what I did. Don't do that. Do this instead. So I'm going to jump on that bandwagon and say it would help to start with an end in mind. We did not do that. And as a result, we spent quite a few years just happily drifting when perhaps if we'd had a more clear goal in mind, we could have been more productive. And the folks you have with you when you start to get from A to B may not be the same ones that get you from B to C or B to D or wherever your goals are. That's interesting to me too. I did not realize that. So just keeping that in mind. Like I
Mhm.
consider myself a stronger leader in times of ambiguity. And I don't know how I would fare if I had a much larger team to manage and I was like in $1 billion company. Do your best to put measures in place that you can take some time to unplug, because if you can't give your best to the company when you're burnt out. So you owe it to yourself and to your team and to your clients to bring your best self as often as you can. And that requires occasional rest. So I learned all those things the hard way. You may have them for free.
Yes. Well, one thing in particular that stood out was that lesson you shared about the team that you have to get you from A to B may not be the team to get you from B to C and
Exactly.
C to B. Um, I was just thinking about that, and it's not just that it's true. It's also that's actually a very hard and painful lesson just in itself, because
Yes.
the implication of that is downgrading somebody that has really done everything that has really built you up, and you are everything to them. And I think it goes to kind of like the some of the hard decisions that you have to make as a leader.
Yes, I would agree. It is sad because you have someone who's basically been your foxhole buddy, your battle buddy for a long period of time. And when you have to get up and run to the next foxhole, to the next hill, sometimes they have to run in a different direction. And that part sucks. Just does.
Yeah, yeah. Nothing you can do, but in the end, it's better for everyone. One more thing that I actually want to do a really important shout out to. ScaleSec does very regular webinars on cloud security, and if you are doing anything regarding cloud security, you should definitely check out their webinars. And so, if you're talking to ScaleSec, you're actually talking to people who were right there in the dead of the center, started with cloud security
Mhm.
from the cloud provider that actually made the biggest impact and kind of changed the world on cloud on especially as a service. And so
Look at
uh,
we look for strong employees that have been, maybe they've been in a place where they're the only security expert, and the only way that they improve their success is by googling or figuring it out on their own. When you come here, you're surrounded by people who have also devoted their careers to focusing on security and cloud security. So we swipe folks from Big Four, we swipe folks from other strong consultancies that, where you want to focus on a security first mindset. So we've got folks that have worked for AWS, for Google, for Azure, and have worked in those clouds for other consultancies.
awesome. And I think what Marsha just said actually makes one of the key arguments on why you should be working with a boutique.
Mhm.
Yes, you will find security experts with a big consulting company, but if you're a boutique, this is what you live by, this is what you die by.
Well,
And
and here's the throat you get to choke. If you call, it's me answering. It's not going to be me on the pre-sales calls and then you don't see me again until the closeout. You're going to be able to reach me. You're going to be able to reach Aaron or any of our consulting directors, any of our leaders, if you want to know what's really going on. But we also have a great deal of respect and trust in our team members, and they represent us very well, regardless of whether they're principals or staff or senior. They are really able to hold their own, because consulting is not engineering. Consulting is being an engineer who also recognizes the business impact of the challenges that our clients are facing. So we don't just roll on in and deliver you a big old heap and helping of code and DevOps. We're the ones that say, you know what, this is reusable. And you have two other teams using pipelines. Let's at least take these codes over to those teams so you can integrate security there as well. You've already paid for the code. Why not use it elsewhere? And when you offer those additional impacts, that's why you go with a small boutique consultancy and not just an engineering head shop.
And I think the other thing that you just said, you kind of included an advertisement for why should somebody get hired at a boutique consultancy, because you're going to understand the bigger picture, which will actually give you skills that you will need to really advance your career.
Absolutely. And that's really important to us too. Teaching folks when they come in, sometimes they come in strong consultants and we need to up their security chops. Sometimes they come in strong engineers and we work on the soft skills. But you have to have a mind that wants to learn. When you have a training first mindset, then you're going to be successful, frankly, whether you work here or anyplace else.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for all of your advice. Thank you so much for taking the time
It was
to
lovely to
talk
see
to us.
you again.
It was always lovely seeing you again, and I am hoping to see you in person pretty soon.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome.